chase me if you wanna, or settle like you always seem to do. Settle like I do when I'm with you. That is a freaking bop, guys. Hey guys, it's Katya. I'm having a rough day. You don't know how much it took for me to just be here in front of this camera today. My camera's been broken for 2 weeks. It was supposed to be good Monday until I got it Monday and tried to film, and it was not fixed. In fact, it was still broken. So I went to Target and bought a whole new camera just for you guys. But anyways, now that we've established how dedicated I am, let's get into the story. Today's story isn't about a boy or a fake friend. Who's shocked? I am. I decided to tell a story that wouldn't piss anyone off today. So I chose someone who can't DM me on Instagram after seeing the video. Today's story is about the most insane teacher I've ever had. A little background first. When I first went into college, I had a minor in psychology, which means I had to take a psychology class. I love psychology. This was the class that I was most excited for out of any other class on my schedule. I was like, yes, I get to take psychology again. But I soon realized that this was not going to be like any normal class. I had already gotten off to a rough start, meaning I slept through my alarm on the first day of class, and it was my only 8 a.m. class. Slept through it, woke up halfway through it, crying. I ran to the building where it was in, and the classroom was empty, which was weird because it was only halfway through. Emailed the teacher. I'm like, hi, like I showed up halfway, sorry, but you guys aren't even here. And she's like, well, I would have been here if you came on time. So automatically, I already think she hates me. The second class, she decided to change the location 10 minutes before class. I'm not good with directions. I can barely get to my classes that I've been to before, and now this is the first time and you're gonna change the location 10 minutes in. So I get lost and I'm late again. So my first week wasn't the best. The second week, I was determined to get there on time. I woke up probably an hour early, left 30 minutes earlier than I needed to, and I was there, sitting in the classroom. I was ready to learn psychology. But this class, you know, the one I actually make it to, is not the typical class. I quickly realized this when my teacher walked in with a newborn child. Now, don't get me wrong. We love a career and family-oriented woman, but there were just a few things that I was confused about. The first thing was that this woman was clearly in her 50s and she was carrying a newborn child, which I was like, oh, that's so sweet. She adopted, like whatever. But then she starts telling us about her birthing experience. So I'm already confused. Two, when I got past the initial shock of there's a child in this classroom, my teacher puts the child on her desk without a blanket, like on the hardwood desk, and the child is just rolling around on this desk. And three, she spent the first 45 minutes of class on the phone with her babysitter, trying to tell her where to go, then hanging up with her babysitter and telling us how she's so fired, how she's gonna fire her babysitter, this is her last day of work, but then gave the babysitter her baby. You know, I just don't think I'd give my child to someone I was going to fire. So obviously, we didn't get much done in class this day. But I'm like, you know what? I love psychology. This is a one-time thing. Obviously, her babysitter messed up and just didn't show up. Like, everything's fine. But the next week, she comes in with her baby again. But this time, the baby's in one of those little carrier things, you know, that you put around your chest. So in my mind, I'm like, this was obviously planned. She took the first 40 minutes of class again to tell us how bad her babysitter was and how she was fired and how cute her baby is and about her doctor's appointments that she's been to. And for the remainder of the time, she taught us psychology by talking to her baby. She'd be like, social psychology is the study of social interactions. Isn't that right, honey? Isn't that right? Yes, the study of social interactions. For an hour! On the days where she didn't bring her child, she still didn't know what was going on. She'd teach a lesson by reading the chapter that we were assigned out loud in class. Like no insight, no additional information. Just the literal words I read for homework the night before. And while she was reading these chapters aloud to us like a freaking audiobook, there would be PowerPoints behind her with the vaguest points you could ever imagine. And usually when PowerPoints are vague, it's because the teacher is referencing things but also expanding on them through her lecture. But this teacher would literally just read the bullet points and that's it. It's like if she said, these are the 2 ways that you can persuade people. One is the central route persuasion and one is the peripheral route persuasion. And that's it. Like, end of lesson, good luck on the test. You know everything you need to know now. And when we ask questions like, oh, but what is the central route persuasion? She'd answer like, oh, it's one of the types of ways you can persuade people. I'm sorry, what? Your PowerPoint said there are 2 types of ways to persuade people. List the 2 types. And when I ask specifically what one of them is, you say it's a way to persuade people. We'd be like, yeah, but what is it? Like, what do you do? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, can you expand on this? Can you give an example? And she's like, oh yeah, that's in your book. Like, go read your book. And we're like, oh yeah, here's a definition of my book. Can you give us an example? Oh, it's probably in your book somewhere. Like, I think I read that in the book. Like, just go look in the book. And of course, this subject would be on the test in great detail. Like, describe the aspects of central route persuasion. And a way to persuade people would not be one of the answers. And another thing about tests, if we got a question wrong, we would ask her, oh, can you explain why this is wrong? Can you give a reason? And she could not. For example, someone asked why he got a true or false question wrong. Like he asked, oh, I put false. Like, why is that wrong? And she literally said, oh, because it's true. Like if the question was true or false, the sky is blue. And I put false and I'm like, oh, why is it false? She would tell me that the reason the question was wrong is because the sky is blue with absolutely no explanation. And if we ask, okay, can you explain why the sky is blue? She'd say, oh, it's in your book. Some other cute things she did. She had a pattern of showing up 15 to 30 minutes late to class. And so I had a pattern of showing up 30 minutes late to class, but suddenly I was on time. She gave out extra credit work throughout the semester, so at the end of the semester, you could get 5 points back for your grade. Now, of course, she wanted to grade all of them the day before grades were due. And of course, she wanted to spend the first 45 minutes, plus the 15 minutes that she was late for, in class, adding 5 points to everyone's grade. And of course, this was during finals week, when I needed a finals review. So while everyone's just waiting for, you know, her to review our final exam, she's going through her computer, adding 5 points to all the 40-something kids in her class, and then forgetting to add some points to some people and then having to go back up the list to see who she missed. And by the end of class, everyone had 5 points, but not a final exam review. And my favorite part, which I shouldn't be complaining about, but it's just so wrong. It's just so wrong. Because of her lack of teaching and knowledge in the subject in general, I had an 86 in the class, and that is bad for me. Like, it is unusual. Like, I am an A girl. I'm an A student. And I noticed that, lo and behold, I was not one of the kids who got the 5 points back. So I go to her and I'm like, oh, I did all the extra credit like throughout the semester. I did everything. Like, can you add the 5 points? Even though I know this won't make it an A, but it'll make it a B plus at least. I'm like, yeah, just add the 5 points. Like, can you do that for me? And she's like, yeah, I'll fix it. Don't worry. Like, by the end of the day, you'll have your true grade. And so later that day, I get a notification that my grade has been changed. So I'm like, oh, like, I hope it's a B plus now. Like, I hope those 5 points did something. And so I look at my grade and it is now a 96. A 96% whole 10% more than before. Just to remind you, I added 86. The extra credit is 5 points. She added 10%. Like, she either can't do math or she felt really bad for me. But I ended with an A. Do I feel guilty? No, because I feel like I deserve something for all the pain I've been through. Wow, a story time with a good ending. Like, this is rare. I came out okay in this story. What's happening? Who would have thought a story time would end in my favor? But anyways, that is it for today's video. My school is a great school with lots of smart, amazing teachers. That's all I'm gonna say. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story. And I'll see you next time. Bye!
Tell me what you like, but it's never gonna change. So you do